And I have been very worried, citing that baby and bathwater principle I mentioned before, is that blanket restrictions and broad-scale restrictions on third-party data end up disenfranchising, for example, ad networks and other mechanisms that are the primary means to market of small publishers. The small bloggers, the hobbyists, the others that make a couple $1,000s a month from advertising on their sites that is basically sold and placed by third parties. Is there a way to protect the vibrancy of the long tail of the internet and the ability of minorities to communicate, all kinds of minorities, political minorities, hobbyist minorities, crazy minorities? Is there an ability to protect, is there a way to protect their ability to communicate whilst in an environment where third parties are somehow eradicated? So I thought Pam, Mark, we'd throw that to you two.
Okay, I'll give you each 1 minute.
I have a lot to pack into a minute. I apologize, I'm gonna really rip through this. I have a lot to respond to on Do Not Track because I was the mother of Do Not Track, and also on cookies. To answer your question, I don't have a short answer to it. There's nothing flip or quick that I can say that responds substantively and meaningfully to your question. I think the answer will be found in having a meaningful dialogue where there's actual trust in the room and where people can get out of their trenches and move toward the center. And I mean privacy people, I mean industry people. Everyone's gotta get out and come to the center. I think that's probably going to be the solution. And I think that really has to happen. I'm including myself. Just to take a few seconds on Do Not Track. I held a meeting in Berkeley, California in 2007, and I held it with all the leading civil liberties and privacy and consumer groups, and I proposed Do Not Track to them. And I proposed that idea as a data broker opt-out idea. That was the idea. There are hundreds and hundreds of data brokers. Consumers don't know where they are, who they are. And I thought, wow, we could gather them all in one place and let consumers opt out. This is really cool. But Do Not Track got forum shopped and ended up at W3C. And the criticisms that I've heard today and have heard about Do Not Track, I believe are fair, and there's a basis in reality for them. And I think that the current framework that's being debated, it's a fair debate. And I see good points on both sides, but I'm really concerned because I do not believe privacy is an on or an off switch. It is not that linear, so I have a lot of concerns about Do Not Track as it's being implemented right now, and I'm the mother of Do Not Track. So,
Actually, I think we're gonna go to Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's an incredibly important question, and I am deeply concerned about the impact of regulations and policies and what's taking place at W3C on the long tail, on small business, on entrepreneurs, and I'm concerned about the barriers to entry that it would place on small business and companies seeking to break in, those companies that one day hope to be the next Google, Yahoo, or AOL. And I think it's a real consideration that has not been adequately addressed in that debate. We need to examine what are the consequences and what benefits are we creating for a small select few, and how will that impact the long tail, the diversity, the small content and small players that we know and love. As to what would be a good or more workable solution, oddly enough, one place I might point to is in fact the administration's paper that they released. And this is why. The administration points to high-level principles, the fair information practice principles that have been around for decades, principles about notice and choice, transparency, accountability, access, security. And I would actually suggest if we look at high-level principles and then look at ways to apply them in new media, whether it's mobile, online, offline, cross-channel, and we're creative about it, and we look for a way that is scalable, practical, and proportionate to the risks and the harms, I think there is a dialogue and a path forward to create a framework. And to some of Pam's points, a framework around uses of data, right? It's different if data is being used for advertising or an eligibility decision, and just as you've also said, sensitivity. Different kinds of data have different levels of sensitivity, and therefore should be tied to different obligations. So I do see a path forward, and I hope it's a path forward that seeks high-level principles that do not pick winners and losers, are technology neutral, and are business model neutral.